Hey guys, it's Alexandra. Today I'm going to be talking with Katie, who is a claircognizant. She's going to be talking about what that means and how it deals with energies and premonitions. So I encourage you guys to come into this video with an open mind, and I think that some of her experiences are really interesting. So I hope that you will stay tuned and subscribe for more videos. All right, thank you. So you identify yourself as claircognizant, right? Is that what you call it?
Yeah, I definitely align more with the idea of claircognizance rather than clairvoyance.
She must have been out of her head. Oh, 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 oh. Here it is.
To differentiate a little bit between the two, and again, I'm sort of new to like identifying with this community. But claircognizance is just connecting like with someone's emotions a little bit more. It's like this deep sense of knowing and understanding, as opposed to clairvoyance, which is like the clear, like the sight ability. Um, so while I think I have a little bit of the clairvoyance, I'm definitely more claircognizant, and I think a lot more people maybe know that or understand that as an empath.
Mm-hmm. So how did you find out that this was something that you were connected to?
Um, I think if you've seen any of my videos on TikTok, I talked with my parents about it a little bit, and they said that I've always sort of been an empathetic person, like since I was a young girl. For record, I'm 29 now. But I've always just been very emotionally in tune with people. I guess I have what people call an old soul. I've just always been very, very emotionally connected to people.
Mm-hmm. So I know I've seen some of your videos, and you talk about kind of your first experience, if I'm getting this correctly, being connecting with a friend that you had that passed away.
Yeah, that's definitely one of my first, like my first few and first, it's like a recurring thing for me. So I don't live in my hometown or my home state anymore, actually. But when I was younger, yeah, I had a friend who was murdered by his father, and then his father, unfortunately, did commit suicide. So it was a really tragic event through our town. But for a very long time, I had a hard time going by his house because it was physically, and I didn't understand why it was so physically hard. I thought it was just, emotionally difficult for me to go by his house because something traumatic had happened there. But I didn't really associate all of this physical pain and discomfort I would feel, and like very specifically, like in my head and like in my neck. And without getting too graphic into the details, it was like pain that was connected to his passing. And I didn't really put that together until I was given those details later, which was really alarming. And that was sort of my first inclination that, like, I shouldn't know that. I shouldn't feel that. And that was very different. And I knew that other people definitely weren't feeling that as well.
Right. So when you talked about that, like, what did people think about that?
I definitely get mixed reactions. I'd say most people who aren't empathetic or don't really understand that, they don't really believe me, or it's just like, oh, that's really silly. I actually had someone in one of my lives recently ask if I thought I was schizophrenic. So I get a lot of those kinds of reactions. I'm very grateful that I do have parents who don't doubt what I feel and what I have experienced. Not necessarily that they like wholeheartedly believe it themselves, but they don't doubt what I've experienced, which is great.
And then kind of following that experience, have you had any other kind of experiences similar to that as you've gone through life?
One that always has stood out to me as just sort of like an empathetic connecting moment, when I was about 7 or 8, my great uncle was in the hospital. He was sort of, at the end of his life. And my dad and I remember, like, went to go see him because my dad had been at work all day. So I went with my dad to the hospital to like say goodbye. And I remember when we walked out of the room, I think I looked at my dad and I said something along the lines of like, that was like the last goodbye. And he was like, I know, that was our last goodbye with Uncle Tony. And I was like, no, that was the last goodbye. And I think it was like we hadn't even made it to the end of the hallway and like we heard him like code, like, you know. So it's like stuff like that. Like for whatever reason, like we said goodbye to him. We walked out of that room and I was like, all right, that was it. That was like the last person that he needed to see before he was ready to go. Like, 7 or 8 years old. I think people say that like younger kids are more connected to like the spirit world, or sort of that line is a little bit more blurred, but not really at that age. That's a little bit older than like, that age, I guess, gap.
Mm-hmm.
So that was maybe my first like real experience where I can remember like just that weird emotional connection.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know why I felt it, but I did.
Right. And you even talk about, it's funny that you mentioned that situation, because I came across one of your stories recently about your grandmother who passed away. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. My grandma passed away just about 2 weeks ago, on the 2nd. So just shy of 2 weeks ago. And she had been in hospice for a couple of weeks. And I don't know what it was about that night. Like I'm normally like I sleep kind of fine. Like I'm not like a bad sleeper by I guess any means. But I was just having a really hard time falling asleep that night. And I'd even taken a sleeping pill, and like literally nothing was getting me knocked out. And it wasn't until like, I don't know, for whatever reason, like around sometime between like 1:30, like 2-ish, finally my body was just like, okay, we're ready, we're going to bed. First thing that happened in the morning was my dad called me and told me that my grandma passed away, like overnight around that time. I asked him, I was like, it was around this time, wasn't it? He was like, yeah. And it was just sort of after we'd had these conversations too about, the first premonition video that I had shared on TikTok. I called them and had a conversation with them about that. So this was like literally days after that. So this was very fresh in all of our minds. And my dad was, I guess, very understanding of the emotional connection that I was having at that moment too.
Yeah. And I would, first of all, I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
And I would assume, like, is what you have, is the ability that you have ever something that you wish you didn't have?
In certain instances, yes, because being very emotionally in tune with other people, to whatever degree, it can be very overwhelming and very exhausting at times, because I have my own emotional baggage and my own emotional stuff that I carry and that I work with and work through. So to just be able to like really pick up on other people's energy and emotions like that, it can really throw me off balance. So it's moments like that when I have to sort of work on like closing myself off to people. I don't like to do that. I don't like to be emotionally closed off from people. It's not my nature. But in order to do a little bit of like self-preservation in those moments, I'm like, I just wish this was a little bit different for me. I wish that I could, feel these emotions at the same way that other people do, just not as deep right now. But I'm also at the same time very grateful for it, because, I can make very deep emotional connections with people that are very meaningful to me.
Mm-hmm. So on a different note, what are some of the parts of your ability that you have to connect? What are some of the parts of that you like the best?
For me, it's just sort of the fondness of being able to still connect with like a person or like a presence, or, when I was in high school, my grandfather passed away, and he passed away in his home. So whenever I go visit my grandma, there are certain instances where I can feel his energy a lot more than other times. And that's a favorite for me, because I have a lot of really great memories tied with him, and they're really specific memories. So it's great to be able to not necessarily relive that, but, it's like a little added bonus, I'd say. Like I get to sort of have that, and no one else knows about it. But it's like when we're watching Red Sox games at my grandma's house, or when we were, um, you know, he would sort of be this loud, annoying presence that was like screaming in the background. And that was just sort of, it's always sort of nice for me.
Well, have you been able to connect with anyone who shares similar experiences to you?
I have, yeah. There was a group of friends that I made in high school that sort of shared some of these abilities. I'd say probably a little bit more refined than mine were, and probably still are. I was friends with a couple of psychic mediums when I was younger, which was great in terms of like helping me just like identify what I was experiencing a little bit more, because I could just tell them a little bit more about, the things that I'd seen, heard. Weirdly enough, smelled is a big one. A very, very heightened sense of smell is often present in like a lot of the clairs, like clairvoyant, claircognizance, etc. So being able to talk to them when I was younger, before I was really able to talk to my parents or my family, or really even sort of like come to terms with it myself, was really great. It was the same group of people who brought me to, I mean, maybe it was for better or for worse, but brought me to a really haunted place in New Jersey, my home state, which is called Clinton Road. And there's a lot of, whether it's true or not, there's a lot of paranormal activity. There's certainly a lot of heightened energy on that road. So we would sort of drive up and down and like see what we could see, feel, or just sort of like pick up on what was going on. And that was where I'd say I had a lot of my first like experience, a lot of my firsts, I'll say.
Mm-hmm. So what were some of those experiences that you had there?
A lot of them, I would say, God, there's no shortage of like spooky stories, I'd say, about this road. This is not me condoning people going to it, but it's called Clinton Road in New Jersey. I'm not going to give you the exact like location, but it is like, if you know, sort of thing. One of the like spookier things that happened to us the first like couple times that we drove on the road, there's like a legend of like a ghost truck that I didn't quite believe. Like, honestly, that's how I met one of my friends in the first place. Is like, they saw me about to drive down this road by myself, and they were like, that's a really stupid idea, like the ghost truck is going to get you. And I was like, the ghost truck? So I ended up like following them down this windy road, and sure enough, out of nowhere, these like headlights pop up like behind my car. And when I say this road is no lights, like no overhead lights. It's about 10, 11 miles long, goes around a lake. So there's no like side roads or anything. There's no like way for anyone to get in or out, unless you're like already there and you're parked on the side of the road, which is like highly don't recommend. And it's like almost so pitch black that like when you tap on your own brake lights, you can't even see behind your car. It's very eerie. So to all of a sudden have headlights pop up from seemingly nowhere was very frightening. And then, it seemed like this car was just like right behind me. Like I could not get away fast enough. And then I like went around a curve and it was gone.
Wow.
And I was like, cool. All right. I believe you. I'm here for it. I have no more doubts. It was like one of the more terrifying experiences too. It was like one of the early ones, but like hands down, one of the more, and that was not the last time that we saw that truck either. Like definitely not the last time.
So when you kind of think about, the experiences you're talking about, and I think, at least from my understanding, there's a lot of terminology of like, are you psychic? Are you a medium? Are you clairvoyant? Are you claircognizant? So how would you separate those? How would you differentiate yourself from a medium?
I can't call somebody for you. That's probably the easiest way that I can put it. So I work with mediums. I love going to and speaking with and learning from mediums, but they have such a more advanced ability than I do, because they can actually, and whether it's they can directly call somebody or they can actually channel a message better, I can't do that. What I have, I'm not going to say I can like do. It's like a more just like it's like an occurrence. I see like physical things. I see physical like beings like very quickly, very split second. Like it's more, I'll wake up and there's someone at the foot of my bed, but like I'm not like summoning people, and I can't unfortunately call, your loved ones who have passed on to get messages for you. Maybe I can, but not right now. I've been told that that's something you can work up to.
Yeah. Are you interested in learning more kind of about your abilities, or would you rather just take them for what they are?
I've been told that if I want to explore it more, I have to do it without fear. And I think I'm ready for that. I think I'm at that place. But I think because I'm still saying I think, there's some hesitation there. So I'm not quite ready to go like full-fledged. There are still some things about this that are so alarming for me, that I want to work on that first before I try to do anything more advanced. Like sometimes for me, I can't remember if I said this in a live or if it's like in one of my videos, but like driving by like big cemeteries for me can sometimes be a little bit overwhelming, for no reason other than like sometimes there's just like a lot of energy. It's not like bad, it's not good, it's not like I'm seeing like, dead people or anything. Like it's not Sixth Sense, but like sometimes it can just be like a little distracting. So I'd like to try to figure out how I can work on that before I grow from there.
And I also noticed that you have a couple of videos about like charging crystals and things like that. Does that connect to your ability at all, or is that something that's just separate?
That's something that I am doing a little bit more learning on. I actually just got a couple from a small Etsy shop this week, so I charged those today. I've just read and like learned that they can do a lot of good in terms of like energy healing. I do practice meditation, so I've heard that it's good to like incorporate those. That they do carry a lot of good and different kinds of energy. So I'm still sort of like dipping my feet into that, but I'm really excited. Like I said, today was my first day charging them, so we'll see what kind of I guess things happen over the next couple of weeks.
Awesome. So what are some kind of things that you think people might misinterpret or might be a little misrepresented about claircognizant people in that community?
Well, I think one of the things that are, I like, maybe you said it a little bit earlier, is that I get like people will ask me like, are you a medium? Like I remember reading my comments and someone like asking in one of my videos, like, can you call my grandma? And I was like, I'm really sorry, like I don't know how to do that. And like it's like I don't know, that's probably like number one, is like that's like the biggest sort of like misconception. And like not that it's a misconception, but like people just straight up don't believe it. And it's not really my job to prove it to you, because it's not like, I don't know, I don't really think I owe that to somebody that I need to prove that or change their mind. But like if you don't believe that, sometimes they can come down kind of hard on you and like make you feel kind of bad about yourself. And it's like, here I am like living my truth and like being honest. It's like, that's just kind of a shame that someone not only doesn't believe you, but like has to go like the extra mile and like be like, you're a liar, you're making this up, you're doing this for attention. Like I don't really gain anything from this. Like I've gained a TikTok following, which is cool, but like I don't do it for personal gain. There's nothing that's like, I would say I gain nothing from putting my story out there, except like maybe people, can appreciate it and have been through something similar and now know that they're not totally alone.
Do you think you will continue to share occurrences as they happen for you?
Absolutely. I can't wait to share more. I definitely want to keep sharing more. And like, I don't know what, when or what they will be. But as I guess I'm going to work on some past life regression as well. So I think that will help me maybe like recall some more stories, like just some more instances that I could share.
So what is that past life regression?
From what I understand, it's just like sort of looking into like what your past lives were, like who you were as a person, like how you passed on, like what kind of life you led, and that just sort of like builds and forms like how you've become who you are today. So like I don't know anything about my past lives or like how many I've lived, so that's I'm sort of like very much just still wading into the waters here of all it. It's very new and exciting.
Well, I think it's awesome that you're putting it out there, because you do hear you hear a lot of the extremes of the spectrum of like unbelievable stories. So it helps to kind of hear an ordinary person talk about the
Yeah.
experiences that aren't like, you know, a movie or a, you know, something that seems outlandish. I think
Yeah.
it's great to hear that, and to, I'm sure it helps you too, sharing it, to be able to um, you know, have that reaction that leads to you wanting to dig in more to that side of yourself. And I hope that you will continue to learn, and whether you decide to or not, it's a unique skill, and I think it's awesome that you're sharing that with everyone.
Yeah, no, I really look forward to, and it's been great to like have some support out there, and I've been given and pointed towards some great resources, which has been great. And honestly, it's been sort of no surprise, because TikTok, I feel, has been a great place to find a good community, and like a good place to, like, if you're exploring new things about yourself and like just trying to, like, honestly, like, learn some new things. I found that I've learned a lot of new things, and I found a lot of really great people. I've certainly been like challenged by people, which is, again, no problem. I'm not here to try to change anyone's minds or prove anybody wrong. I'm here to like tell people what I'm experiencing. What I experienced when I was 10 was a spooky event that was, I would call, my first premonition that was like a landmark event for me. I knew that was different. I knew that was not normal, and I didn't know why or what it meant, but it was definitely my first foray into just like being more aware of like how emotionally sensitive I am.
And what would you advise anyone who thinks they might relate to you, but isn't really sure if it's legit or not, or thinks they might have felt an energy, but you know they're true, they don't want to talk about it because they think people are going to doubt them or whatever. What would you advise them to do with that knowledge?
I say don't be scared. It's not something to be afraid of. This is definitely something to be excited about. But it's easy to get afraid and overwhelmed by, more energy or emotion than you're used to. But don't be afraid of it. And definitely, if you're experiencing stuff like that, I would say work on meditation, like work on sort of like resting your inner self, like setting your soul down a little bit and just meditating and like grounding yourself, because that'll help you like be a little bit more aware of the energy, like what you might want to do with it, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But definitely not to be afraid.
And then for those who don't buy into the whole concept of energies, I mean, there are plenty of people who think that that's loony. What would you think about, what would you want them to know in a way that's not trying to prove yourself, but what's something you think could enlighten those people?
I guess one thing that I can say about that is I had a conversation with my roommate earlier this week where I had to swear on my crystals that I still believe in science. I'm not a person who is like here spouting stuff about energies because, it's some new age, whatever. I believe that the universe is a really strong force. And I believe that the energy that we put out, because it is literally written into physics law, is really real. So whether it's the force of gravity or the force of karma, I think all of those things are real and applicable. So whether somebody else believes it or not, it's still energy that's being put out and received by other people. And a rule sort of thumb in like all of this like energy work is the rule of three. So like any energy that you're putting out into the universe, it's going to come back to you in threes. So I try really hard not to put active, negative energy out on people, because I just know that it's not worth it in the end for me. I try really hard not to hold grudges. I'm not a perfect person, so obviously that's, it doesn't work every single time, but I just really think about the energy balance. And if people don't want to understand the energy balance of the world, I'm like, okay, that's about as simple as I can get when it comes to explaining it. You put energy out, you receive energy when you feel like you're having a bad day. What is that? It's not just like a bad mood. you've got bad energy. Like it's, you know, something is offset within you. Like there's something within your universe is like offset. So you know, that's, I would say, the best way that I can explain to people who don't want to believe it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you talking to me about this. I think, you know, there's still so much to learn, even though you have the ability. I'm sure there's still so much for you independently to learn. So,
Oh, yeah.
I wish you luck on that journey, and I hope that you will continue to share and, you know, interact with your followers in a way that opens people up to this world a little bit more. So.
Yeah, no, thanks so much. It's been awesome, and yeah, keep up and keep your eyes out. I'll keep posting stuff as it happens.
All right, sounds awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks. Bye.
All right, take care.
You too.